Hi, I'm Tameika Devines. I'm a wife, a mom, an entrepreneur, and a city councilwoman.
Hello, I'm Jamie Devines, a husband, a father, and a community champion. I've been married to my wife, Tameika, for over 15 years.
Join us as we interview some of our favorite couples, hear their stories, and be inspired.
The secret to our successful marriage is that we are very intentional about our date nights. Hi, I'm Jamie.
Hi, I'm Tameika. And we are the Devines. Thank you so much for joining us, and Happy New Year, everybody. This is our very first date night with the Devines episode for the new year and our new season. And really, we've actually taken a year hiatus from the show. So we welcome those viewers who have always been here with us. We welcome you back. Thank you for sticking with us through transition and everything else. And for those of you who might be new to joining us, welcome to this show. This show we birthed in 2019. We are both elected officials, as you can see from, or we were both elected officials, as you can see from our intro. And we're both in the public eye. And so we started this show because a lot of people were asking us, like, Tameika and Jamie, how do you guys manage being parents, being public officials, being entrepreneurs, but still having time for date nights and for each other? And so we decided to birth this show, and we're really excited because over the years we've gotten so much support. Our viewers have grown. But over last year, we took a hiatus because I was actually running for mayor, which we'll probably talk about in a future show. But I was running for mayor here in the city of Columbia, South Carolina. Was unsuccessful in that bid, but really made me think about where we were. And so so many people were like, well, we really missed this show while you were campaigning. And so since the campaign's over, we have decided to come back and continue to introduce you to amazing couples who are keeping love and marriage first and forefront, but doing amazing things professionally and in their careers. And so we are excited to start season 3 with a great couple that we just met, but I've heard about and I've known about for over a year now and been inspired by their story and really impressed with the work that they are doing. And so we were excited to bring them today. So Jamie, you want to, first of all, let's welcome them. So we've got Eric and Dr. Shakisha Heilig. Hey guys, how are you?
Hey,
fine. How are you?
Good to see y'all. Happy New Year and happy Kwanzaa to both of you. And thank you so much for joining us on today. We will do a quick intro of our guests, Eric and Dr. Shakisha Hylick. Eric is an ordained minister, founder of Covenant Kingdom Builders Ministry. He has earned an MBA. He is also a marriage and relationship strategist. He is a best-selling author, a TV producer, licensed financial services advisor, and John Maxwell certified coach, speaker, and trainer. So let's welcome Eric with us today. And then we have Dr. Shakisha Heilig. She's a leader in the healthcare arena as a registered pharmacist, has served in leadership capacities for the past 18 plus years. She's co-authored a book entitled Marriage Can Win, Girl, Get Up and Win, and newly released Wife Material. She's hosted several conferences, been a guest speaker, and has done radio interviews across these United States of America. So again, let's welcome our guests today, Eric and Dr. Shakisha Hylick with us today. So again, welcome to you two for being with us. And thank you for joining us on today. And so we are glad that you're here. So we'll just jump right into the questions. And if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourselves again, and then how did you two meet?
Well, we met.
There's a story there.
We met about 28 years ago, actually around this time, in Tallahassee, Florida, at Florida A&M University. I was actually leaving a study session in the library, and I was in the apartment the parking lot between Gaither Gym and a dormitory, and I saw this beautiful lady here walking up, you know, in the parking lot, and I was getting ready to back up and leave. And I was like, oh my goodness, I need to back up and talk to her. And she had AKA on the shirt. So I was like, oh, she one of those sadiddy girls, those sorority girls. But I said, I'm going to shoot my shot. So I said hello to her, and she actually spoke back to me. So I was like, okay.
Oh, okay. So that's his version of what happened. It's pretty, our versions are pretty much the same. But when I met him, I was going through a period in my life where I had given up on relationships. I'd been through a pretty bad season in my life where I was just done with dating, done with relationships. I was just done, period. And I had just said, you know, I'm done. No more dating, no more guys, no more drama. And when I got up that morning, when I heard him, the day that I met him, what I heard was, be nice to everyone you meet today, which to me was weird. I'm like, be nice to everyone I meet today, you know, because I was in that season. God knew where my heart was at that moment. And I just, you know, when he pulled back his car up, I automatically went to that moment like, okay, let me just get rid of this guy so I can go on with my day. And then I heard it again when I got ready to blow him off. I heard, be nice to everyone you meet today. So instead of blowing him off, which is what I fully intended to do, when he started talking to me, I was receptive. I actually gave him the correct phone number because, you know, back then when we wanted to blow someone off, we gave them the incorrect number. But I gave him the correct number. And literally, it's been 28 years later, and we're still, you know, still rocking and rolling.
Yes.
Wow.
Awesome.
So I did not realize that you were a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha. So happy belated Founders Day to you. I am a Delta, so all fan love. And so I will say, Eric, you have chosen wisely. I'll tell you, those of us who not only can wear the colors, but also can build, we build our kingdoms and our communities. So you got a great woman there.
Well, thank you. I looked up with her.
So let me ask this though. So, I mean, 28 years, that's a long time. How long did y'all date before you knew that each other was the one, and kind of how did that evolve into the lifetime partnership?
Well, actually, I had been dating I was at Florida A&M University, and before I came there, I heard there are 7 to 8 women to one man. So I was all intended to getting my 7 and 8 women to my one man. And if somebody else didn't want theirs, I wanted theirs too. But when I met her, it all changed. Wow. She just became the center of my attention. And then we, like, together, we've known each other 28 years. Took us 4 years before we got married. So we've been married now, 23 years now? So yeah, 23 years. It was just something about her that was different.
Wow. It took me a bit longer to recognize that he was the one, because I had been in that predicament where I've been in relationships that were failing. You know, it just wasn't the right person. And from that point on, I was very cautious. So that's how God knew he had to tell me, be nice to everyone you meet. This is not the one I want you to blow off. The other ones before, you wouldn't listen. Please listen to me now.
That's it.
So it took me about, I'd say, a little over a year dating before I knew there was something special about him. I knew, I just felt connected with him, and I felt that he was always going to be a part of my life. Didn't know it was going to be in a husband capacity, but I enjoyed spending time with him. We just talked for hours on hours, literally almost every day. Yes. So we really, really established that friendship bond first.
And that's good. I mean, you know that when you can have those conversations, and you know those conversations turn into hours and hours, that's really something. So let me ask this too. So, you know, Eric, you are ordained minister, but when y'all met, college, you know, how you talk about. So were you, actually at that point, did you were you going to church? Were you really looking for someone? Were you listening to God's word, as Shakisha obviously was listening to God's word at that time? Or is that something kind of as you matured? And how important has God been in your marriage and in your relationship?
Well, I had been going to church all my life, but I wasn't filled with the Holy Spirit and listening to His voice and doing what He wanted to.
All
I
right.
was actually operating in the flesh,
All right.
like
All
I
right.
said. So,
All right.
once we got together, things changed, and it was nobody but God to put us together, and direct us to where we are today. It just really isn't, because as she would say, she never thought she would even come to Florida. She hated Florida because of all the sun. It was just kind of ordained out, because I was in Fort Lauderdale at the time, and I was working and going to the community college, and I had applied to FAMU and FAU. I got accepted to FAU, but they never sent me, or I misplaced the acceptance letter, and I got the one for FAMU. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm going to FAMU. And turns out later I was accepted to Florida Atlantic University, because they were like, okay, registration begins. And I'm like, what do you mean registration? I didn't know I got accepted, because I would have probably just stayed in South Florida rather than going to Tallahassee. But it's nothing but God.
Okay, very good. So using that platform kind of as your background, we did read, of course, in your bio and just learning about you guys, that you both were raised by single parents. How does that the way that you were raised influence the way that you approach your marriage?
It's amazing, because my mom and my dad got divorced. They separated when I was like 8, got divorced when I was 13. So my father, I still had a relationship with him, but my dad didn't have a relationship with God. He didn't really have an understanding of what a successful marriage looks like. Neither did anyone in my family. When my grandfather passed away at 96, he was on his 4th marriage. So I didn't really have a model to emulate. So we literally, it was like getting our teaching from God and having other pastors that would pour into us and demonstrate what a healthy marriage looked like. Because I had no idea. I came into the marriage modeling my father's motto. My father would tell me, you run your household. You don't let any man or anybody tell you what to do with your money or anything like that. So of course we butted heads, because my husband told me, he said, look, there's not going to be 2 men in this house. There's only 1 man in this house, and I don't wear dresses. So we had to learn to communicate. We had to learn to build that mutual level of respect and follow God's plan for the marriage. So that caused us to butt heads on many occasions, and it was a process. So that's what made us so passionate about helping other couples, because, we always almost found ourselves separating like our parents did, like our grandparents did. And that was the one thing that we said at the beginning of our marriage that we didn't want to do. We didn't want to follow in our parents' footsteps.
Yeah, when you have, in all sense of the word, when you have two worlds colliding, there's always a big boom, a big blast. And that's what was happening. We had two worlds where she grew up. Her parents were married, they got divorced. And with me, my parents got they were married and they got divorced, they got remarried, and then they got divorced again. And so, from my upbringing, from what I saw in a relationship and what they saw, she saw were totally two different things. And so when we come together, I'm expecting, my upbringing in my world, and she's expecting her world. So when they come together, it's a clash. But one thing is, when we were dating, we did do a lot of communication. We did do a lot of talking. We spent a lot of time together. We found out a lot about each other, which is typically what you need to do when you're dating. And I can say now that's what when we teach our clients or whoever we're coaching, or if we're teaching, is that you need to find out if this is someone you want to build life together. Is this something because you want to build and protect wealth, and you want to talk about, basically it's almost like, let me see your curriculum vitae. Are we in the same mindset? Are we thinking and we have the same culture? Are we, thinking the same direction? Because, I maybe want to be a CEO of a company. You maybe want to be, the manager of McDonald's, which is nothing wrong with that. But I may want to own McDonald's. And so if we, two different, so it's going to be a conflict. So, and then, we have a checklist now, actually on our website. When dating, you need to ask all these questions. Number one is, okay, what type of religion do you believe in? If they're different, what are we going to raise our kids? And most importantly, do you want kids? How many kids do you want to have? Where do you want to live? What kind of cars you want to drive? Vacation. Are we going to have vacations? When do you want to retire? Do you have enough money to put towards to retire? And our kids, if we have 2 or 3 kids, how are we going to put them through school? These are the questions that we need to ask, because we've talked to many people, and especially when they've been married 2 or 3 times and they're on their 3rd marriage, and they get married and they're in their 60s, and one has a house in California, one has a house in Florida, and they're like, okay, you ready to move to Florida? They're like, no, I got a house in California. They never talked about it.
Yeah.
They never talked about where they're going to live. So that was a conflict right after they got married.
That's important. That's important.
So that, let's back up a little bit, because that leads us to kind of what y'all do now. And we want to dive deeper into what y'all do now, because I think that certainly there are some of our viewers who are either thinking about getting married, that might be dating, or we've got lots of viewers who are in marriages and they're at the beginning stages, that really probably need to hear some of the stuff that you guys offer. But let's back up a little bit. Like, it is so amazing that you guys have this great marriage, but professionally, you help build great marriages by this. And so tell us, how did that happen? How did y'all get into the aspect of the speaking and the coaching and working specifically with couples? Was that just something that God led y'all to, or is it that people came kind of like us, people kept coming and asking, how do y'all do this? And you decided you had a gift to share, or how did that happen?
Well, we have been working in ministry, the marriage ministry, for for a while. And actually, I guess we could say we've been working with couples over 16 years, and professionally about 7, right? But it started really one day when we were in ministry, and they said, hey, okay, we're having a marriage ministry. And so they said, well, all you married couples come out at so-and-so, 7:00 Thursday night. So we came out, and that's how it started. Somebody else was asking the question, they were teaching, and he was like a more professor. He was like giving you the scientific brain, this is why you think this way. This is why you think. And everybody was in there like, okay, what I got to do with us being married? Okay, we don't have to go to the DNA section. And we were like, okay, people just wanted to ask questions and say, hey, I'm having problems. She getting on my nerves, or he getting on my nerves. She spent too much money, or he's, those are the kind of questions they wanted to talk about. But he was too busy talking about the scientific makeup of the brain.
Honestly, when we went there, it was an environment in which it just felt really sterile. No one felt comfortable asking questions. And we were thinking, we struggled in our marriage. If anything, we should be able to come to church. Nothing against church. It's just saying we should be, that's an atmosphere where we should be able to get wise counsel. We should be able to be transparent and get answers to the questions that we're facing. So I started raising my hands, asking questions. And then once it did that, it broke the ice, and people started saying, okay, so more questions started coming up.
Right.
And it was like a release. It was like, okay, now let's have these conversations. So they said, hey, are you guys coming back next time? And we were like, okay. So we kept coming. And next thing you know, we were a part of the co-facilitators, because there are people, like, you're in ministry, you hold all these titles, but you're still struggling on the inside. You don't want to raise your hand and say, hey, I need help. So we had to, say, hey, let's have this conversation, put titles and all this stuff aside. You're a married couple and you're struggling. How can we help? So we were a part of an amazing group where we co-facilitated with other couples, and we would have different events every month to bring the couples out. It would always be teaching involved, but a lot of them would be fun, like bowling and just different activities, teaching them how to work together, how to navigate challenges. And it broke the ice, because sometimes, and we love our husbands, but sometimes, they're kind of like, I don't want to go to someone and tell me what's going on. But when you make it inviting and fun in an atmosphere where they can learn it at the same time, it wasn't a lot of pressure. What's your thoughts? And
to add on to it, we eventually, I know, and she, to fast forward, when we first started to doing this professionally, she was actually met a business coach at a conference. And out of that came my first book called The Marriage Can Win. Yeah. And what we did with that, we actually did some research, and also we did interviews with couples. And we found that the three biggest issues that causes relationships to fail, or not even to get started when you're dating, is communication, finance, and sex. Mm-hmm. And when you're in the confines of the church, you know, people are not necessarily comfortable talking about those three things. Even if it's marriage ministry, they don't want to talk about sex, even though that's what they want more of. But they don't want to talk about it. And so, you know, so the thing is that that's what causes issues in the church, out of the church, and society. And so we wrote the book, gave keys and strategies of how to overcome that great divide. And we even have workbooks to give you assessments on where you are in your relationship, whether you're dating, married, been married a while. So, and you know, you actually find out where you are in your communication from a scale 1 to 5. Where are you on your finances? 1 to 5. And then on sex, where are you 1 on 5? Because the communication aspect is the biggest key out of all those three. We've worked with couples and we've run the assessment. And actually, we were at the Tom Joyner reunion show. We did over 80 couples running the assessments. And it was funny because you had the couples and we asked them on communication, where do you feel you are 1 to 5? 5 being great, 1 being worse. And they'd be close. One say 2, another say 4. Finances, a lot of times they'd be pretty much on point. When it came to sex, you know, the guy would be like, well, we 5. And the lady would be like, 2. And he'd be like, what? You know, and it comes down to this simple thing. I give an example, like, you know, when it's time for intimacy, the man would always come and be like kissing on the neck and licking in the ear. And he thinking he's just getting all ready for, you know, love. Yeah. And she like, you know, a year later, she's like, stop. She's like, what's the matter? I hate when you do that. So baby, I've been doing that for a whole year and you never told me that was bad. I thought that was good for you. Right. And she said, no, I just didn't want to hurt your feelings. Simple communication. Now you see communication about the finance and then intimacy. You want a win-win situation. You don't want a person to have a negative experience going into when you're, you know, supposed to be your pleasurable time. Right. So that's kind of how we got, you know, from the beginning and moved on into, you know, working with couples. And then to take it one more step, like I'll leave it at that.
No. You're like, okay, we're like, yeah, listen. So what's that next step? Because you also, so you said you've been doing this professionally like 7 years, but y'all have evolved. I mean, from, you know, being coaches, being speakers, but you've got the book, you've got, you know, a TV show. I'd love to hear about that. But tell us kind of, because even over the 7 years, your business has transformed. And the most important part that I would love to talk about is the transformation that you're making, and that God is actually, put it this way, God is using you to make in building his kingdom, particularly in strengthening Black marriages.
Well, if I can, I know I'm over here, but
I'm the quiet one. It's okay.
It's called teamwork.
We would hold conferences, and what we did is we invited a financial company called Edward Jones, and we bought family therapists, we bought other psychotherapists to the conference, and we found that it was just supposed to be for couples, but we found pastors, coming leaders, and it was just, we were surprised. And so, you know, eventually that was an in-person conference, and then COVID hit. So it evolved to the virtual aspect. But once we started the virtual aspect, we took it so where we got approached from a radio producer. He said, I want you to come and do a radio show with us. And we was like, okay, Marriage Can Win. And we had just started a podcast called The Marriage Can Win. And so we did the radio show and with the it's called the Love Radio Network. And we did the same thing, and we just replicated over to our podcast. And then he came back and said, I want you to do another radio show. We're like, another one? And he said, yeah, Date Night with the Heilicks to help the singles. So we did 2 radio shows and we had the podcast. And so it was really reaching people. And we were like, wow, because we had a live show. We took in questions, and people from Pennsylvania, and we're in Florida, were saying why they were asking questions, and like, wow, I never knew, what I was doing wrong with the questions, and we were really making an impact. We saw an impact, outside of our local area, and was reaching people all over the nation. And so we were really surprised with it, and it just grew and grew and grew. And then our podcast, it took off when we reached over 5 countries, and we had about 86 shows. And we had great guests like George Fraser and I think Dr. Willa Jolly and Janie Lacey, who was a family therapist.
Yeah.
I mean, we had people to come on and give us feedback that we were really making impact. And so we were like, wow, this is really impacting people. And one of our shows, which I think was the most important aspect, and we kind of moved into a different aspect of helping, is the importance of the family structure in America. Mm-hmm. And that's where it really started impacting more than just marriages. And it gave the standard and formation for singles to know what a definition of a successful relationship and a family is. Because we got on a different platform, Clubhouse. And when I started talking with the youth in there, they're like, oh, the women were like, oh, I don't need a man. I don't subscribe to the paternal systems of churches where you got to go to church and believe in God and got to get, married. Because it turned out they were so disappointed with pastors and their fathers and their mothers that when they saw them, they're like, well, why should I get married? My father's being unfaithful. My mother's, being unfaithful. And, in church, you go to church and you find out everybody's being unfaithful, and they're not getting anything to make them want to subscribe to being married. And then the women are looking like, well, I don't need a man. I just need a man to take care of my physical needs. I got my own, they call it bag. I got my own bag. I make my own money. Right. I'm successful in my business. I don't need a man. And so they're like, well, I don't need a man. So why do I get married? Why do I need a relationship? And they've gotten so bad, they go to turn into women. I don't need a man. A woman can do what I need and I can move forward. So we're like, wait a minute. This is crazy. So we start focusing on the importance of the family structure. And I call it the hood training. We got to have the parents to start teaching the hood training. You got to have that boy move from the boyhood to the manhood. You got to have that girl go from girlhood to a womanhood, woman to a wife to a mother, boy, man, husband, father. They got to learn, as far as the boy, they got to learn who they are, how to respect themselves, how to respect the girls, to move forward. So that has been the focus now, is the family. But here's the thing, we take it to another step, because we didn't depend on a financial company in there. Sakeisha and I both are licensed financial services advisors, and we have a team of over 18 and over 6 different states we're licensed for. And so now we're teaching couples how to build and protect wealth, starting with your children. You have $1 million babies. By the time they turn 16, you can reach into these products, pull out money tax-free, and pay for their college education. When they graduate, you can reach back into these products, pay for a house and cars. And when they want to retire, they can retire for the rest of their life and get like $120,000, $130,000 tax-free for the rest of their lives. And when they're like 70 or 80 years old, and something happens to them and they pass away, they leave $3 million to their family. That's generational wealth.
That's it.
So, and when I mentioned that on this platform, they're like, whoa, because they're starting to build their own business with cryptocurrency and investing in, PO trading and stock market, but where they putting the money? Because it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. And so they were starting to listen. And they are to what I was saying, and they were like, okay, well, how do I do that? And then, and it made sense to have a strong foundation of a mother and a father. And so that's what I believe is the most important aspect in America and even the world today, is if we can teach our children, and if we can teach the adults, to be responsible. And if they're learning what the aspects are, then they'll know what to teach to their kids.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a word, Eric, because it really, it's so much deeper, and people don't recognize how interconnected some of these things are. And when you talk about just even the way the media portrays families, and so what we're learning is not to value the marriage and not to see the role that a strong marriage has in building wealth. And so then when people want to talk about the education system or poverty or, African Americans achievement, they don't even go back to the fact that what's the structure of the family and where could that have been impacted by some of these things. So that's real powerful what you talked about. Shakisha, were you going to add something?
No, I think he's covered it all. I just think it's really important, though, for us to have those conversations. Sometimes we have our kids such that they're focused on immediate gratification, and they're not really planning for long-term success. They want that immediate. They want that right now. And we have to start teaching them. That's one of the things we had to tell our kids in our household. We don't do those expensive sneakers and all those expensive clothes. Now, that's immediate gratification. That's not going to help you in the long term. That's not going to help you build residual income and residual finances coming into your home. So we're going to cap it at this amount. Anything over that? No, ma'am. No, sir. You won't get it here.
That's it. Yeah. That's smart. Set the boundaries. Set the boundaries. Yeah. As we get ready to close out, I always ask the famous Jamie Devine question, which is one of the last couple questions that I always ask, and this goes to to both of you all, and just I'm gonna phrase it, then I'm gonna give a scripture behind it, and then I'm going to ask you to answer it. If you could tell a younger Eric or a younger Shakisha anything, what would that advice be? And while you're thinking about that, I think about Habakkuk 2:2 when it says, "Write the vision, make it plain." And Eric just spoke to that. With God and of course the husband and then the wife and then the children, and that we may run with it, whoever reads it. And then in verse 3 it says, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it will speak and it will not lie. Though it tarries, we got to wait for it, and because it will surely come and it will not tarry." So I say that to that young people sometimes have to have that vision from the parents, so that when that time comes, they have to tarry, but in the end they will still hopefully see the vision of the importance of having family going forward. And again, going back to the question, if you could tell a younger Eric or younger Shakisha anything, what advice would that be? Either one can go first.
I know for me, it would be not to make a permanent decision based on a temporary situation. Right. Sometimes we want immediate gratifications. You have people that give up on your marriage because you hit a rough patch in your life. Mm-hmm. As Apostle called it, he said you go through those see nothing seasons. So then you're ready to give up on your marriage and your relationship. But it says for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health. Just think of the pandemic that we went through or still going through, but the impact that it's had on relationships, particularly even for our finances, businesses. A lot of people, they were depending on those 6-figure incomes and they lost their jobs. They had to transition into entrepreneurship, and that can take its toll on your marriage when you don't make a long-term plan for your finances, or you're living outside of your means. A lot of times you have people transitioning into doing certain things because they want that immediate gratification. But, you do have to count the costs. You have to consider the long-term effects of a decision that you're going to make now. So just take your time, and don't be pressured into doing anything right then and there. I say put some serious thought into something that you're planning to do, especially like my husband mentioned before. If you're someone that you're going to build a life with, don't rush into that relationship. Get to know them in different seasons, what's their plan for their
Mm-hmm.
life. Where do they see themselves 2 years from now, 5
Mm-hmm.
years from now? You know, we go into relationships thinking, oh, I can change that person. No, you can't. Only God can change somebody.
Right. That's
so
right.
just keep that in mind, not making that permanent decision based on that temporary situation.
The things that we're teaching our kids, I would teach that younger Eric. I would teach him about building a strong family and building a successful business and building generational wealth, as we do in our television show, Becoming a Millionaire Power Couple.
Mm-hmm.
And I would really do if I knew that if this younger Eric, if I had been imparted to by my parents, things would have been a whole lot different. There'd have been a whole lot of different aspects of my life that I could have avoided, that through roadblocks on the progression of me from going from a boy to a man, and being even a better husband. I would impart that into the younger Eric, and I would speak that into that younger Eric. Impart, teach, train, impart everything I can into him, so he has the advantages moving up, especially with everything society is throwing against him. He'd have the tools and strategies to win in relationships, to win in business, and to win in building generational wealth, and just in life. So that's what I would tell the younger Eric if I could go back to him.
Wow.
and make a difference.
Wow, that's good. That is good. Well, listen, thank y'all so much for being with us on tonight, and so we greatly appreciate you being here. And we're gonna turn it back over to Tameika.
So I do have, so I know if anybody wants to connect with you guys, I know that y'all are on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Marriage Can Win. Also, your website is marriagecanwin.com. It's .com, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. I thought so. So that's how people get in touch with you. Is there any other way? Because y'all have given some great nuggets, but I think there's probably some more things.
Yes.
If anybody wants to get in touch with you, is there any other way that you guys have for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, we have YouTube as well.
Yeah, we have YouTube. And of course, our television show is on Zandra TV Network. Once you get there, all you have to do is look for Becoming a Millionaire Power Couple. Our season 1 is there. And you can actually go there from the internet too, ZandraTV.com.
MPCTV.live.
Or yeah, MPCTV.live. Also, you can reach us there.
All right. So we're going to put this up so that anybody can watch it. I know we're definitely going to watch Becoming a Millionaire Power Couple. We definitely want to see that. But again, thank you so much for joining us. And then for our viewers, thank you for joining us for episode 1 of season 3 of Date Night with the Devines. We're excited to continue what God has laid on us, and that is to interview other amazing couples, because I think so many times, just to that point that Eric and Shakisha have mentioned about how do you know what you want if you don't necessarily see it. And I know that so many people say, well, I don't know great marriages, but there's so many great marriages all around us. And so we wanted to bring you these conversations to continue to inspire you in whatever it is that you're doing, but to know that you can have a great career, you have great kids, great marriage, and really live the life that God has for you. And so anyway, thank you so much. Continue to watch us and share this. We're going to be here every single third Monday at 9 p.m. for Date Night with the Devines. So join us, invite others to watch, and then certainly go to our YouTube, which is A Divine Life. And then you can watch all past episodes and episodes as they come forward. So until next time, I'm Tameika.
And I'm Jamie.
And we are the Devines. Good night, everybody.
Good night.